Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, Layla Ann Magato Cherry, okay, the wife of the one and only Ian the Vegan Magato Cherry, has taken to her Instagram to address some of the rumors that get used to make fun of her husband, Ian the Vegan, online by the MMA community. Now, in this video, she makes 3 claims and gives a response to those 3 claims that people use online. And in my video, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to let one of her claims play. I will pause it and I will give a response to it because, in my opinion, she uses some pretty disingenuous, dishonest tactics. She even complains about people not fact-checking and then goes on to give a history lesson towards the end of the video that she herself did not fact-check. Okay, so we are going to go over all of that right now. I'm going to play her video from the start, and as I said, I will pause it as we go.
Machado Garry. There are obviously many, many more. I'd argue over 99% of what you read is a lie, but we're going to stick with 3 today, and these are important. The crowd at UFC 298 press conference were loud. The boos were undeniable as Ian took to the stage, and a bloke behind me shouted, "Can I fuck your wife?" He had no idea
Kind of based.
I was there until I turned around and glared at him, to which he just disintegrated into a wet puddle of apologies.
Okay, now this isn't a claim, but she is trying to she's trying to come across as this extremely intimidating individual that was able to, with just a glare, turn a man into a wet puddle of whatever she says, right? So she's essentially a Medusa, but let's continue.
This tsunami of aggression towards the undefeated welterweight all exploded when former middleweight title holder and current multiple world bullshit title holder Sean Strickland read a clickbait headline but didn't bother to fact check or read the whole article. Unsurprising, gullible behavior, but why would we expect anything else? Why would we expect anyone to fact check? We're in an age of headline
Right, even yourself, which we will go over later in the video, but let's continue, my bad.
only attention deficit consumers looking really to validate only preconceived ideas online. Bad journalism, bad people, and lazy consumerism are a perfect recipe for misinformation to explode and an unwarranted amount of hate to land on the shoulders of UFC's brightest prospect. So let's begin with lie number 1. Ian took his wife's ex-husband's surname. I can't believe anyone would accept this to be true, but the MMA community picked it up and ran a full marathon with it. In fact, some people are still running with it now, gripping on with sweaty, trembling fingers in order to justify blatant trolling. It's not true. It never was true. Machado is my maiden name. We added our names together when we got married. It's not that big a deal. Now that you know that it was a lie, you can kick yourself for believing it, preferably in the face. Line.
All right, now let's address her first claim, okay? Now, Ian took his wife's ex-husband's last name, okay? No, that is not what most people were saying. It just wasn't, okay? Now, maybe some people were, but the vast majority were making fun of him for taking your last name. It is not the traditional thing to do, and to the vast majority of people that are not from South America, it is in fact strange. It just is, okay? It's also kind of a sign of things to come. It's a sign of the feminism seeping out of Ian the Vegan Magato Cherry, because one man's body can only take so many direct intravenous's of feminism before his body tries to reject it, okay? Unless you get him on a vegan diet, or, sorry, unless your ex-husband gets him on a vegan diet. Now, this is a common tactic used by people who, in my opinion, are not intelligent enough but want to appear as though they are, okay? They attack the weakest, craziest, most strawman version of an argument, or the weakest argument from a collective of people, to try and gaslight everybody into thinking that that was the entire narrative, that was the only narrative. But as I said earlier, most people were making fun of him for taking your last name, Layla Ann, whatever the fuck your name is, okay? Not your ex-husband's, but regardless. Now, people are allowed to think him taking your last name is weird because, like, it just kind of is, dude. My wife would have never asked me to do that. And look, I understand that in South America, as I said, where her last name is kind of from, that is the culture, but this chick is clearly, she's British, okay? He's Irish, and to both of those cultures, both of those countries, it is not the normal thing to do to take your wife's last name, point blank, period. You can try to justify taking it with the reasons that Ian the Vegan Magato Cherry has given, and if you think that is noble, then good on you, okay? But it just is not something that you see every day, especially in the West, where both of these people are from. Now, by the fucking way, maybe this is just an age thing, right? I understand that she is not of this current generation, to put it lightly, right? But Nobody needs to justify trolling. Literally fucking nobody. It is part of the internet. Get over it, okay? Now, let's move on to claim number 2.
Number 2, his wife's ex lives with them. There's a pattern here. A lot of the lies are about his wife. I'm so glad she's finally clearing it up. No.
Perhaps a lot of the lies are about his wife is due to the fact that you have thrusted yourself into his career, into the limelight. You enjoy this. You want to be famous. Do you know what I mean? So many other UFC fighters' wives do not do the things that you do. They do not do these sort of things. You make it worse every time you make one of those response videos, and I'm going to go over that a little bit later.
No, he doesn't. He never has done. I find that a bit weird. I wouldn't want to... No, this lie was born out of the mouth of an MMA YouTuber desperate for clicks. When you make a channel entirely dedicated to your opinion on others, you have to somewhat admit that your own talent isn't enough. You haven't got enough to entertain. You have to talk about other people in order to stay relevant. You're riding off the coattails of other people's hard work. This isn't fighting commentary. This is just self-indulgent numerical masturbation. When researching all the bullshit online, it was very clear to me why people are making so much of this content. You see, the numbers spike sharply anytime anyone's talking about Ian and his family. So much so that Kevin Holland's page looked like a full shrine to Ian Garry for a complete 3 weeks, as he just kept regurgitating this Ian Garry content. You see, if you have no morals, no creativity, and you need to hit the numbers online, then the numbers are often worth the lie. Lie.
All right, lie number 2, or claim number 2, right? I don't, anyways, the husband doesn't live with them, okay? Now, it's actually humorous. I wonder if this lady is full-blown fucking autistic or something, because she takes everything so literally. Most of the ex-husband jokes are, as she said, from the earlier claim, right? They're trolling. People are making fun of you because of the relationship that he has with your ex-husband. But also, he is Ian's nutritionist. He travels with you guys everywhere. This is something that Ian the Vegan Magato Cherry has said himself cooks for him. Most likely around a lot more than the average ex-husband, okay? People exaggerate for the purpose of comedy. It is what it is, lady. Move on. Dude, if none of us matter or aren't talented enough or special enough, then why the fuck do you care so deeply about addressing these things, okay? Now, but also... again, why the fuck does it matter? Every time you address it, you are making it worse. Then she goes on to shit all over either MMA Guru or Red Pill MMA, because those were the two that were pushing this forward the most, right? And all I'm going to say about that is that she just denigrated like almost every late night comedy host, every comedian, most entertainers, okay? Almost all forms of commentary or comedy, pardon me, are commentary related. Shitting on people, making fun of events and people, and being entertaining enough to garner a large audience on a platform that is, for the most part, democratic, okay? And the fact that if you are not good enough, you do not succeed on this platform. If people don't want to watch you, you won't succeed. So again, if everybody making videos like these are shit, have no morals, no talent, all this shit, then why are you taking time out of your day to address it? Also, lady, the last time you made a response video, you made it a million times worse, okay? By sending threats of lawsuits to these YouTubers who you claim aren't special, aren't talented enough, don't matter, right? You are public figures. You are open to scrutiny and online trolling. It is what it is. Every single public figure has to deal with the exact same thing, right? You tried to address, or you tried to, when addressing that situation, blame suicides on content creators and a whole bunch of other wicked witch type shit. Now, I did a video on that back then, and I will link it in the description. Now, also, content creation is a part of the what I would like to call the superstar ecosystem, okay? Your husband, to what extent is a star in the sport of MMA, is sure in large part due to his fighting ability, for sure, but is also in large part due to the amount of people that talk about him online, and that is just not arguable. You cannot deny that. If people didn't make videos on him, didn't give a fuck, nobody would care about Ian the Vegan Magato Cherry. Look at Jack Della Maddalena, who by the way is married, who by the way his wife does not thrust herself into the public of the MMA community, has had objectively, in my opinion, better performances against better competition in the UFC, should, in my opinion, be more famous and garner more attention from the MMA community. But because your husband gets talked about so much online, because of the dumb shit that you spew, okay, he's more famous than him. It is what it is, dude. Do you know what I mean? If you... you should be thanking these content creators for even talking about him, right? MMA Guru already had a large audience and a crazy amount of views online when he started talking about Ian the Vegan Magato Cherry. It's not like he needed Ian the Vegan Magato Cherry to grow his channel. Whereas MMA Guru talking about him, Red Pill MMA talking about him, and all of these people talking about him for sure grew his star. Now, let's move on to claim number 3, okay?
Number 3, Ian is a cuck. Step back up, Sean Strickland, a man who's unlikely to be au fait with the Shakespearean English he unwittingly used when calling Ian a cuck. First penned in the story of Othello, the word cuckold refers to the fear of a man who's been betrayed by his wife. Sean Strickland has been talking an awful lot about Ian Garry's wife. I've been called a sexual predator, a paedophile, an abuser, all by the man who alleges he suffered that exact abuse as a child growing up. In the Shakespearean classic, Iago tells Othello about Desmonda's adultery and he blindly believes the rumours. It's serendipity and not merely coincidental that Iago was lying. There was no truth to the story at all. Othello, like the crowd at UFC 298, was cruelly misled by Iago's jealousy and insecurities. Othello was never the cuckold he was called. His wife was never an adulteress. And notably, when the lies were exposed, Iago was taken away to be tortured and killed. Thank you, Shakespeare.
All right, now, she goes on to give us a history lesson, but before that, I want to make one point that I missed about the second claim. Now, she goes off on content creators saying that you have to ride off of the coattails of other people's hard work and other people's success. Now, that is unbelievably ironic coming from a lady that wrote a book about how to bag a young, famous athlete, therefore not having to do any hard work of your own, riding off of the coattails of your would-be successful husband, exactly what you are doing right now. Okay, before you were thrust, or by the way, before you thrusted yourself into the public of the MMA community because you were Ian the Vegan Magato Cherry's wife, who the fuck knew who you were? Okay, so that is exactly what you do, by the way, but I just wanted to point that out before I moved on to claim number 3. Now, claim number 3, okay, the cuck claim. Now, this one drives me crazy, and again, I believe a little bit of autism is at work, from Layla and whatever the fuck. Now, most people don't use this term in the literal sense by the literal definition. We take all of the circumstantial evidence that is at play, taking your last name, the ex-husband being around pretty much non-stop, the fact that he is on a vegan diet, his views and opinions on, you know, culture war shit and what have you, him making the blue hat make MMA great again, him shitting on Donald Trump for creating Colby Covington, even though there are plenty of people that would support the 45th president of the United States that do not act the way Colby Covington acts, okay? We take all of the circumstantial evidence and we use this word as an insult. It's sort of the same way as the F slur, right? The British cigarette was used for so long, and every time, most of the times people would use it, it had nothing to do with somebody actually being a homosexual. Point blank period. That just was the case, okay? This is kind of the same, but I digress. Now, she goes into a full-blown history lesson of the word cuck or cuckold and where it originated from, and she's just wrong, okay? First of all, it wasn't first penned by Shakespeare in the 1600s when Othello was written, right? It was penned originally in The Owl and the Nightingale, okay? That was the first time that this word was used. Now, this was in 1250, by the way, when this poem was written. And, you know, it was not written by Shakespeare, but regardless, dude, okay? Now, the origin of the word comes from the cuckoo bird, right? Which is shortened term that is used to belittle the husband of an unfaithful wife since the 1200s. The word cuckold derives from the French word of the cuckoo bird, just as the female cuckoo lays her eggs in the other bird's nest. A cuckold's wife sleeps in another man's bed. It essentially means an adulteress, as she originally said, but it is not based on a lie or a Shakespearean story. This word is much older than that, and she didn't fact check herself. It's not a massive point, but just the fact that she complained about people not fact checking things and then goes on to give an entire history lesson of where the word was first penned when she's objectively incorrect, okay? Now, she did try to flex her vocabulary and all this shit, but regardless, dude, as I said, most people aren't using that word literally. She's attacking a straw man or is autistic as fuck and doesn't understand that people can use an insult and use a more colloquial definition of that word rather than the actual definition of that word, because there's probably people out there that do think he literally sits in a chair and watches your ex-husband fuck you, okay? But most of us, at the very least, I think so, are using the word as just an offhand insult, okay? The same way, as I said earlier, that the term for a British cigarette was used for so very long before they made that word out to be the worst possible word you could imagine, and nobody should ever say it because it's so denigrating to a certain community, even though, as I said, it wasn't really used to talk about that community in the first place, okay? But either way, dude, you know, also, why go back to the 1600s to use a definition when you could just use the modern day definition of the term cuckold, right? It's just a little odd. She's just trying to flex her intellect, or what she perceives to be intellect, and it drives me absolutely up the fucking wall. First penned, she says. Either way, dude, this has been me giving a response to Ian the Vegan Moscato Cherry and the 3 claims that she made in response to, okay, this is inception of responses to what people use online to make fun of Ian the Vegan Moscato Cherry. Guess what, lady? We don't fucking care, okay? And until you take some accountability, okay? You want to talk about no morals. You were the ones who shat all over Neil Magny, pardon me, took a small chunk of trash talk that he tried to do extremely awkwardly because he's not used to having such a loud and arrogant opponent, and turned it into he abuses his children, call the abuse hotline, and all this shit, causing real world implications for him outside of his career, okay? You have done nasty things. You are the one who printed Jeff Neal's mugshot on a shirt and sold them, okay? And you want to talk about no morals. It's insane to me, the lack of self-awareness, the lack of self-accountability in all of this, right? Sending threats to sue content creators does not make matters better. It just doesn't, especially not for your husband. I don't understand. This is how I know that she wants to be famous. If they wanted this to stop or to just go away, stop addressing it. It would eventually die down, okay? But they just have to continue on, or at the very least she does. And at this point, I actually feel bad for Ian the Vegan Moscato Cherry, because I tell you what, dude, I would never allow my wife to do something like this, you know? I just wouldn't. I would understand the implications that it would have for my career, the way it would look, and it doesn't help things whatsoever. Now, anyways, dude, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.